What happens now is pieced together from the evidence of a number of sites in the Jordan Valley. It is a triumph of human adaptability. They knew this could never be a natural site for the huge grass colonies they once depended on. So they created their own miniature, controlled landscape. They dug the ground. They took their own precious food stocks and sacrificed them for the future. This simple act was the beginning of a new way of life. It would ultimately transform the face of the earth. They were the world's first farmers.
Late Natufian foragers had to adapt to new conditions their ancestors didn't recognize before, and they had two options in a way. One option was to move out, and the other option was to change the subsistence strategy, to change the way you make your living. It seems that the option to move out to other places did not take place or didn't take room among these discussions within the Natufians, because you can imagine the people sitting there and saying moving north would mean conflict, war with other hunters-gatherers. Why don't we solve it in a different way? And I can easily imagine some of the old females telling them, hey guys, the best way is let's try and reseed our fields. Let's try and cultivate our own plants so we can stay in the same places without moving too far away.
The drought lasted for over 1,000 years. But then, in less than a generation, the ice age of the Younger Dryas ended. The world became wetter and warmer. At last, the weather was regular and reliable. Now it was perfect for farming. This was a moment which has occurred only a few times in the history of the human species. These farmers invented a whole new way of life. By measuring the seeds sifted from this dirt, the scientists discovered something quite extraordinary. The seeds are bigger than wild varieties. It told them the barley had developed a cultivated strain. Without knowing it, these early farmers at Zad were taking charge of evolution. They were mimicking natural selection and creating the first domesticated varieties.
One way in which the first cultivators may have selected would be by taking plants, which may have come from quite a long way away, and planting them and building up a population. Now they would choose, for example, a type of wheat which had a particularly large grain, which would give a high yield, or a barley which had, I don't know, a nice taste or something like that. And they bring these in and build up the population.
Early gardeners began influencing the shape, size, and structure of the grain, what scientists call their morphology. Over time, they made it much easier to harvest.
The main difference between domesticated cereals and wild cereals is in the morphology of the ear. Wild cereals lose their grains at maturity, they fall to the ground. In the domesticated cereals, the ear stays intact. And in fact, it waits for the harvester to come along and gather them.
cereal grains took many hundreds of years to change from their old, smaller ancestors to the bulging heads we recognise today.